checking on my mic settings. Okay, that seems fine. Alright, let's start setting this up now. Alright everyone, I am here. I am going to start up playing maybe some Dark Souls for a little bit, and then decide what I'm going to do about conversation-wise. So, the chatting about will have to be changed. Let's change that now. Hey Ringus, how you doing, buddy? Let me just change our chatting topic to now discussing social unrest in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, hey Mo. Now, what I'm going to say is I am not by any means a social expert, a anthropologist of any kind. I do have some things I want to get off my chest, and maybe Dark Souls is the right game to play to get into that. I don't know, I might switch to something else afterwards, but let's call it Dark Souls for now. And I forgot to plug in my controller. No. I have to unplug my work hard drive first. There we go. It was already disconnected, I just forgot to remove it. Plug in a controller. Keyboard Dark Souls. Fuck no. There we go. It should be fine. This one's fine. I might do some Destiny or something later. My energy's a little low right now. It is the end of the day, and I'm not even sure what I want to talk about at the moment. I was of two minds of even to do this stream, because I'm not sure anybody really wants to hear me talk about this or not. Oh, do I have to scroll through the whole damn thing? Okay. Yeah. Actually, this is the right call for venting or just vibing. Yeah, I think so. Oh, I may have to move the chat box as well. It looks like it. Oh my god, how long is this going to take to scroll through? Oh, there we go. I think the controller wasn't. I guess I have to hit A on the controller or something. There we go. Zoom. Make sure all my. I think this is fresh. I think I've noticed. Yeah, because this doesn't cloud save, and the last time I played this was on my old hard drive, and I've since bought a new SSD, a new NVMe M.2 drive. Auto detect best rendering settings. Go on advanced. Okay, everything on high. Okay, good. I think everything else should be fine here. Let's start a new game. Flame is visible and dragon invisible. Yeah, that'll be fine. Camera speed, auto wall recovery, da 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 da. I'm hoping that Brendan comes on at some point. That'll at least give me somebody to talk to about the situation going on right now. I am sitting in my Discord chat, and if anybody wants to join the chat to talk about the current topic at hand, please feel free. What do we do? We make Ronnie again? Let's make Ronnie again. Ronnie's always fun to make. Ronnie is who I always make. Class. Merc is high dex.
No.
Hey, Veg, I thought I had locked this room.
Oh.
Oh, well, that's fine. You can stay. What's up?
Oh, not much. Had a good day. Just snagged a phone interview, or not phone interview, a video interview for Tuesday.
Nice, nice. Remember, we are on stream, so remember not to talk about anything you don't want the public to know.
I know.
Okay.
That's why I'm keeping the rest of my day like quiet.
No problem. Let's see. Life ring for starting? I'm trying to remember what these starting gifts do.
Oh, and I was helping Bregan set up for a thing.
Yes, I recall reading that conversation in the Discord earlier, yes.
She's been private messaging me all day about this thing.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I'm glad.
Particular model.
Yeah.
That she might actually stream building.
That would be fantastic. Very burly.
So, what's been going on in your country?
Well, the same thing that's pretty much been going on in the US at right now. In that we had a recent situation where 3 men were gunned down by police. And it seems from all evidence that they were not any kind of threat whatsoever. And some riots and demonstrations had broken up because of that. People from the area where they live, which is a very socially deprived area, began burning trash in the streets to try to create a roadblock. Up to yesterday, there was tear gas being fired at them as they tried to peacefully march through the streets. Very much reminiscent of what's going on in the U.S. at the moment as well. And but however, the interesting thing is that it is less of a race thing in Trinidad, because it is, I mean, it is a race thing. It is still a race thing, but it is also a class thing. Because the issue that I've been having and that has been stressing me out lately is that I've been seeing people on social media saying that these people, quote unquote, deserve what they got. When really there is no evidence that they did anything to deserve anything. It is coming out that, like, there is just a bias against people that come from the Laventil Morva area, that they are all somehow criminals, or that they're all somehow related to gang warfare, and that is absolutely not true. But it seems to be a pervading bias against these people. Brendan was saying earlier in his stream that there are people who live in Laventil Morva area who have to change the address on job applications because they're afraid that they won't get hired. They won't get advances.
Discrimination?
Yeah, if somebody sees Laventil Morva on your resume, they're probably not going to hire you. If I'm being blatantly honest, like, they are probably not going to hire you if they see that on your resume. Yeah, that's kind of an open secret, but I mean, it is. I've seen it happen. Like, I've seen people from Laventil Morvar get passed over for jobs. I've also seen people from Laventil Morvar get jobs who I've worked with who have been very fantastic people. It is absolutely not an indicator of the kind of person you are. It really is not. But people make it out to be that way, and that is kind of what's been bothering me recently. No, I don't want to do any of this shit. How do I change her hair color? Face detail? Hair? Facial hair? Here we go. Hair.
Hair color.
Yeah, I see it. I'm just looking for a style right now. Something kind of berserkerish. Hair options in Dark Souls are not great, but you're not going to see them much anyway, honestly. Either you're wearing a helmet or you'll be dead. Hey, Lauren. Hey, no problem. Lauren's watching while she works. Fantastic. On the plus side, this year seems to be the first time we have more people, myself included, this is Professor Touya talking, being better at discussing things. And I'd like to try to be part of that, which is why I'm doing this right now. By the way, can you hear me fine over the game, or is the game too loud? Somebody in chat can answer that question for me. Let's go with this hair. Let's go with... can I do blue as a hair color? I guess I can. Just fine. Okay, you guys can hear me well enough. That's fantastic. So yeah, I'm not sure what I want to say about this, but I am... let me sit up a little bit while I do this. I am deeply disappointed in my fellow countrymen for their recent attitudes towards what has been going on, and not seeing that, you know, it is not an issue of where you come from, it is an issue of the advantages you've been afforded and the biases against you. And that most of these people who are claiming that, oh, you know, that these people deserve what they get, a lot of those people don't realize that in the wider society outside of Trinidad and Tobago, they are probably looked upon the same way. When we go to the States, when Trinidadians go to immigrate to the US, a lot of times we are seen as kind of a waste of time, kind of like, you know, we're coming here to take other
Yeah.
people's jobs or something. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
the prevailing attitude toward immigrants in general in the US, and Trinidadians are Trinidadians have a reputation. Our reputation, from what I understand, is that we are con men, and we talk fast, and then we connive people out of money and jobs and whatever. Starting the game with this character. So Professor Fui says, so I think that June's events in the States have given a lot of local people to be able to understand that it isn't a you get what you deserve, you deserve what you get thing. Yes. The problem also is, though, that, I'm skipping some cutscenes here. I might have to turn the volume down here so I can hear myself a little bit better. There's still lots of people being shit about it. Yes, that is true, and that is the problem entirely. So you're saying there's a lot of people getting better at talking about it, but there's also, I think, equally the same amount of people, or more people, saying that these protests are just copying what they're doing in the States. And I think those people are not looking at the big picture. They're not looking at the way these people have been treated for the longest while. They're not looking at the way that, you know, the way that society has been going in Trinidad for the longest while. And oop, what was that? Somebody's now following. I did not catch the name. Rusty Tuffin something? It's very small. I need to...
Rusty Venture PhD.
Oh, thank you very much. Hang on, let me actually
No
make my
problem.
screen a little bit bigger so I can see when people are following me, because it is very tiny on my top screen right now. All right. Rusty Venture is now following. Fantastic. Let's go back to Dark Souls. Whoop. Yeah, and that's what keyboard and mouse Dark Souls look like. It's very sensitive. There you go. Alright, controller time. New follower! Thank you, new follower. If you're expecting me to have some kind of spiel about when people follow me and what to tell you where to find me on Facebook and whatnot, then you are sorely mistaken, because I don't do that around here. And I have not played Dark Souls in a long time, because holy shit, this is going to take some getting used to. No, I want to go this way.
So I finished BNA last night.
Mm-hmm.
It has a message I was not expecting. I would say it's almost like Zootopia, but it's not predator and prey relationships. It's more like animal, like the difference between an animal and human.
Gotcha. Oh, and this
like
is
instincts.
Rusty Venture says he's from Laser Time. I know who that is. Yes, thank you for hanging out, my friend. You, I think, are the guy who I got to try to finish Dark Souls on his own, and I am glad you're here. You are the reason I am playing Dark Souls 3 right now, actually, because I figured I would at least use this as a starting point for whatever else I wanted to play this evening. 3 is probably the one I've most recently finished, but that was still like maybe a couple of years ago. I still need to get back into fighting shape in this game.
And one of the things about BNA, because this is a world where Beastmen and humans live in the same worlds, of course the Beastmen are kind of like racially discriminated against. To the point where they're basically all the Beastmen live in one city.
I see. Ah, yes, oh, the other guy. Okay, sorry, I'm still responding to chat there. Yes, I wouldn't use your real name on stream, but yes, thank you for showing up and hanging out for a little bit. Yeah, we'll take in BNA at some point. I'm still supposed to start Dorohedoro at some point. I haven't got around to doing that either. There's a lot of stuff on Netflix that I need to jump on.
Yeah, I can confirm BNA is only 12 episodes.
Oh, good. That's pretty quick. Boop, boop, boop. Nope. Nice.
And one thing I do like is that they answered one of the big questions that they kind of initially asked at the beginning of the series, like by halfway.
What's
By
that?
halfway, you know, like a big secret that was like about like how this girl came to be a Beastman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you find out exactly how that happened and why it happened.
Yeah. Sorry, do you also still see that follow message still on screen? Because
Yes.
I'm still seeing it. I wonder when that's gonna go away. If it does, maybe I fucked up on something. Let me just fix something here real quick. Also, responding to the chat, Mo says my mom has dealt with discrimination for long, if not longer than I've been alive. Yeah, it's gonna happen with immigrants to Canada as well. Yeah, Canada ain't all sunshine and rainbows. Lauren, yes, this is on PC. It is my favorite way to play this game, actually. Professor Pui says even up here in Ireland, a country which has a huge ass diaspora. Yep, I would imagine so. Europe, I think, gets a lot of it. Hang on, let me just check my alert box options here. I'm gonna put this on my main screen so I can see what the hell I'm doing. With height, use custom frame rate. Is there a fade out option on this? Follows. Animation. Come on, behave. Pulse, zoom out left. Alert duration 8. Is 8 too long? Let's say 2. Text delay 0 to the animation. And done. Okay, that should be working now. Let's go back to Dark Souls 3. It is gone now. Fantastic. Um, yeah, 2 should be fine. What is 2? 2 minutes? 2 seconds? It doesn't say. Anyway, continuing on. Yeah, discrimination is unfortunately a thing you'll have to deal with as globalization occurs around the world, which I do not think is a bad thing. I'm all for globalization, but the problem is we're going to have to learn to be a lot more tolerant as human beings about the spaces that we inhabit. Um, and the other, I mean, and this is talking about othering within a same space because um, Trinidad also hosts a lot of Venezuelan refugees right now, people who are trying to escape what is happening in Venezuela, and we don't treat them well either. And apparently, we don't treat our own people very well either. And all of this is just sort of coming to a head. And I have to wonder, and I've said this very often, I have to wonder if Trinidad does not have Trinidadians and Tobagoans specifically do not have some kind of empathy problem. But I could say that, but Americans seem to be having that problem right now too, given all the rampant racism we're seeing right now and the Karenism as it is coming to a head right now in the U.S. There's
Yeah.
just seemingly a lack of empathy everywhere. Otter Wolfie, hello, Darkest of Souls. Fight me, buddy. Nope. 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 Should I be scrolling from the other side? Shit, gotta back off. There we go. Oh, fuck. I will read those comments in just a second. Oh, run! Fuck. Gotta heal. Gotta do this in one clear. Got him! That was one try, ladies and gentlemen. I still got him. Which leads to people looking down on those who don't have, because they must be lazy. Ringus, if you want to come in and like voice chat in here, I wouldn't mind that. Richard, I could bore you all with history, but I'm popping in and out of the chat. Not a problem. You can come in and listen as much as you want. Ringus, you can come in and like add to the conversation here. It'll be easier than me having to read the chat.
I'll be right back.
No problem. Mo, if you have stuff you wanna say too, let me know if you guys can come in here because Benji was able to come in here with no problem. Definitely gonna end up sleeping at some point. I understand. Um, Case of Americans specific regarding Karenism, it feels like a lot of it has to do with the fact that Americans are taught that the needs of the one are greater than the needs of the. That is, yeah, that is a kind of American exceptionalism that is born out of a lot of their media and their narrative storytelling about how you are the hero of your own story. Lauren and I were actually just talking about how the live, laugh, love philosophy of many a Karen seems to push that kind of narrative, seems to push that kind of my own happiness is more important than anyone else's. And they sort of take up a lot of room socially when they do that. Yeah, fuck you, I got mine attitude, yes. Yeah, yeah, there it is. Only if white, yeah.
I'm
Um,
back.
Come to Rusty Venture says I've come to see the lack of empathy in America coming from our hyper individualism, which I'm guilty of in my own way, but also in our Calvinist roots, an idea I picked up from Weber. Lauren, Game with Law says, I think I've lived with a Karen once. That sign was in our doorway. It's a reason I don't live with her anymore. Ooh, some frame drop happening there. I wonder what that's about. I feel like that's my connection. Yeah, I think that's just my internet connection. It goes away after a while. Visibly black Karens do not exist. This is true. While while it is true that a lack of empathy exists across all racial borders, apparently at this point, there is an epidemic of it in the white American world with the Karenism thing going on right now. There is. Visible black Karens do not exist. We have our own problems, and I'm not here to drag us down right now,
I,
but I mean,
I have a feeling that the Karenism they existed before. It's just now they're just being more vocal and they're just now coming to the surface.
they're also getting recorded a lot more often. That is also
That
a thing.
too.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't think we know.
that's what I find hilarious about this police brutality that they're still doing this despite like they're being on camera.
Mhm.
Like they think they're safe, but they just cover up their like body camera. It's like no, there's someone else recording them.
Yep.
Like these
We have
niggas should
cameras
know.
everywhere, and I think back to when what is his name? Childish Gambino, Donald Glover made his music video for This Is America. And there's that scene with the kids with their faces masked holding up cell phones. And he says in the song, that's not a celly, that's a tool. And that has become way more prophetic than I think any of us would ever have
Yeah.
understood. Don't
Get
forget qualified
qualified.
immunity, which is ended
Yep.
in which state? Zach, you were saying it was ended in some state? Alright, later, Professor Pui. Was about to add, yeah. If you guys want to talk about this in voice, feel free to come into the... I'm in the bottom channel on the Discord server if you guys want to pop in and say anything. I would not mind having this conversation in voice. This is what the stream is here for. I'm venting, I want some conversation happening. You guys feel free to pop in. If you're not able to come in, I could probably ask Benji to pull you in, if anything. To what extent do y'all think Karenism is tied to wealth intersecting with race? Colorado, thank you. That's the one I was thinking of.
I think that is a correlation too.
It has to be
It
because
has like it has to do with class and race
yeah.
and wealth.
And the race thing is the privilege thing, which I know a lot of white people don't like to talk about, but it bears to be mentioned. There is a very distinct element of what am I saying? Element of privilege to it in that the white people who show the Karenism, the white people who do these things, who record black bodies in their own spaces and try to get them in trouble for it, it means I'm supposed to be here and you're not, and that is a level of privilege. Karenism perceived privilege more than class. Yeah, I think so. I think because we've seen even quote unquote lower class, lower income white Karens acting out of pocket and making these things happen where they shouldn't, you know? Mo, Zach, are you guys able to come into the channel, or do you want to? I'm trying to see if you guys are able to. Brendan, I want you to come into the channel as well. See if you can come into the channel. If not, I can have Benji drag you guys in. If you just want to come into the regular voice channel, he can drag you in. And I never noticed that that the Firekeeper speaks while you're leveling up. I actually think I tuned that out. Anyway, yeah, so what I was doing, leveling up here, strength, max strength, 20 strength. Actually, I'll take 2 points off that and put that into... Vigor is my HP, right? Yeah, let's put some into HP and let's confirm that. It is locked. Okay, hold on. Let me see who I can pull into here. If you guys are in another voice channel, I can probably pull you in from there. So let's see. Mo, did you want to... Actually, let me see who wants to come in. Me and Benji can get there because you have mod access. Okay, so Zach, if you want to come in. Brendan, if you want to come in. Brendan, go to any other voice channel. I'll drag you into this one. Let's drag... Zach wanted to come in. Mo said he'll come in if he wants to. So let's drag Zach in. Zach, can you speak in here?
Yes, I should be able to now.
Fantastic. We can hear you now. Where is Brendan? Do I see Brendan in here anywhere? Brendan is in gaming. Let's drag Brendan in here now. Brendan is here. Mo, did Mo want to come? Well, Mo can come in on his own whenever he's feeling to. I think he's just in there with Joe right now.
I just did a quick search on one of the other Discords I was in. It was Senate Bill 217 in the state of Colorado that ended qualified immunity for its state.
I see.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Hey, Brendan.
Yeah.
Blessings, everybody.
Oh, something funny I saw on the way to the bank today.
What's that?
You know, during election period, like all the politicians, local and not local, like to put up their signs on the corners, like trying to advertise themselves for whatever position they want to get voted in for.
Right.
Those little banner ads in the yard.
Yeah, I saw one that made me think, wait a minute, how is he still around? He shouldn't be able to go any... Like, I saw one for Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Oh,
former
God.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, he
that
wants to go for sheriff again. I was like, no.
Real quick, let me just respond in the chat. Rusty Venture, I am running a strength build, basically. I'll figure more of that out when I move on. Anyway, continue, Benji. Sorry.
Yeah, I saw it on the way in. I was like, you may have been like pardoned by the president, but that doesn't make you eligible for sheriff again. You were an racist dickhole, and you don't deserve that ever again.
He is a special case of privilege where he believes that he is above everyone else. Like, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't think that affects him anyway. Yeah.
I mean, he is one of the he was one of the Exhibit A symptoms of what is being wrong with policing in the United States.
Oh yes, very much.
Yeah, you know what the next sheriff did after he came into office?
What?
He shut down Tent City. I was like, good, because that place was inhuman. Basically, it's an outdoor prison facility that like houses the inmates in like shitty like World War II surplus tents in the middle of Arizona.
Hey, Danny. Danny says, sorry, Blaziken, I shouldn't be using people's real names on Twitch. Was building a cupboard. How's that going for you? And is the cat entertained by this?
That's my big thing, is that how is Bass like staying well behaved while
all that's going on, yeah. He got tired. But yeah, Brendan, my day has mostly been spent wading through, not even engaging, but just looking and staring at Facebook comments about how the 3 guys who got killed got what they deserved, and honestly, I am tired and wiped out.
I've just been watching the Blacklist. I can't do it with folks.
Yeah, it's been the last 48 hours have been incredibly tiring. And I say this with a little bit of guilt as well, in the sense that I stayed home and worked from home today because my bosses gave me the option saying that it might be too dangerous. Now, okay, agreed. There is violence and there's rioting happening, but it's not something that I should be afraid of. I should probably honestly be backing my shit up and being out there helping people protest and listening to people's stories, which I've not been doing. I mean, I'd like to maybe figure out if on the weekend I can maybe make a trip down there or something, but I mean, it's hard to try to figure out what my position is in this, in the sense that I want to be of use, I want to be of help, but I also don't want to get into the way, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and I think that it's totally okay if people feel like even if it's not about like not getting in the way. I totally understand if people are just like, I care about these issues, I wish that I could play a better part, but honestly I'm afraid.
Yeah.
All of those things are kind of reasonable emotions. Because there's so many other ways that people can be a part of a process for social justice. Like
Yeah.
people underestimate or don't take seriously the fact when people like post stuff on social media
Well,
and
they
stuff
love to
like
call it
that.
slacktivism, like we're not actually doing anything. But I mean, a lot of like lawyers have been sharing that, if you have been arrested, please contact me. I will do pro bono work for you. And I think that is
Yeah,
immensely helpful on social media. Like I think
yeah,
that's yeah.
yeah, and that's something that you can't do through like traditional media channels. That's only
No.
something that has happened. Like social media transformed the definition of grassroots.
Yeah.
So I don't think that anybody could feel guilty saying, "Look, I was sharing information and I was talking to folks on IG and Twitter DMs to make sure that they know who to call and that folks are safe." All of those things are fine. Um,
So Blaziken is saying not everybody can be on the front line because honestly, it's scary. I don't have half the balls of those folks. Rusty Venture says it is exhausting to see people just being okay with loss of life, especially as a result of state violence. The state monopoly on violence calls any death of normal, everyday people into immediate question. Yes, I agree with that, and that's coming from. You're an American, I believe, Rusty Venture, are you not? But yeah, it applies all over the place. TK421 asking how do viewers speak in Twitch. They are not on Twitch. They are in my Discord channel, and they're using Discord to converse with me currently. If you want an invite to the Discord, I can probably organize you with that later on at some point.
yeah.
Ah, fuck that up. Okay. Yes,
Is
but then.
is this that the DLC that Nuts is playing too? That
No,
Nuts is
I
playing?
started a fresh playthrough from like stage 1.
Oh, okay,
Um,
gotcha.
so that being said, the one thing I did engage with that really sort of set all this off in my mind was, so I have an aunt on Facebook. You know where this is going, don't you?
Oh, great!
Um,
It's always the
yeah,
answer.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I have this aunt on Facebook who posted a video of a younger black woman talking about the violence that occurred. And the younger black woman was of the opinion that if people didn't want no trouble with the police, they shouldn't be out there making no trouble. And everybody's gonna say that their son who died was a good boy and he never did nothing wrong and blah. And okay, while that may be true, and so here's what I placed as a comment, and I think it was the sole comment on it. I don't know if she took it down or not. My comment was, regardless of what is being said here, we must understand that the ability of the police to take a life is not something that should be done outside of self-defense, which we have video evidence to clearly show was not the case. And if it was not the case, the removal of those men's lives is not at all something that should be encouraged or glorified. And I sort of left it at that. Now, I don't know if she even understood half the words I used, because, let's be honest, older Trinidadian folk who, very simple in the way they express themselves. But I said what I had to say, and whether or not she liked it or not, I do not know. I don't even know if she unfriended me over that, but at this point, I sort of don't care. And that is what sort of set me off on wanting to vent about this to some degree. Is that people in my own family could want to not even express this opinion, but support it when it's expressed otherwise by people who themselves could at any point become victim to this kind of violence.
I can confirm that your aunt's opinion is a very white American opinion.
Which is
But you
weird
see,
because
that's
it's coming
We
from an
get it from a
Indo-Trinidadian.
lot.
Yeah.
We get this from a lot of conservative white Americans here in the States.
No, but that actually brings up something that I mentioned in my stream earlier today, Toya, about how race and class are inextricably linked here in
I want
Trinidad
to
and
interrupt you
Tobago.
for 1 second. Blaziken raises a good point. They love to find the dissenter and use it as confirmation bias. Yes, exactly that. And that is the inherent problem with how Facebook works right now, is because it conforms to everyone's confirmation bias, regardless of who it is. Sorry, please
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah, no problem. It's just that, so, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous and honestly quite shitty to say.
Mhm.
But it's also something that the goddess, who herself is Indo-Trinidadian, would say, like, on the drop of a hat, is that
Mhm.
Indian people like to feel like they're the white people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is true.
because
This
they
is
have
true.
a because they have an expectation that they can and will assimilate up, just like middle class white people who don't understand that there is no real middle class,
Yeah.
and therefore they're just like one bad car payment away from absolute poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
but because they have an expectation, because they have an expectation that they can assimilate up,
Mm-hmm.
people who don't have that, because that's what really separates law-abiding citizens from criminals, regardless of whether or not they've actually done something wrong, is
I
whether or not there's an expectation that people can and will assimilate up.
I also want to mention that the goddess he's talking about, his wife Kier, she wrote a lovely statement about exactly that. If you all want to find it on my Facebook, it is on my Facebook page. Just look for a share that I shared from Kier Alexi and within the
Let
last
me
three
see if I
days or
could
so.
actually link it.
It would be great if you could. It is a great read, and she kind of expounds on the idea of mixed race marriages and assimilating up or down. I say this as somebody who was for a time married to a white woman and is currently dating a white woman from Australia, which is the farthest white land that I can think of. I mean, in some ways, I have to think that of myself, that is an attempt to assimilate upwards. Now, I did love my wife very dearly when I was married to her. I do love Lauren very dearly now because of the people they are. But I have to always question my own motives. Did I do that to assimilate up? Now, I have dated women in Trinidad. I've dated women of color. I've dated men of color. Um, but I seem to end up meshing well with people outside of my social class and social status and social circles. I don't know what that says about me, but I am very aware that it does say something about me. Now, that being said, all my life, me and my sister have come up with the problem that we speak very American. And I blame that on me growing up with a lot of TV and a dad who read a lot of books and spoke very proper English. And I've seen people's faces get almost angry when I speak in Trinidad in a proper like standard English accent.
Because the song too black. We
Well,
are not for.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, no, when I sound more American, I sound too white. So like I'm stuck in this
Yeah.
limbo, right? Like either I sound too Trini for the Americans, or I sound too white for the Trinidadians. And I've done so much as like go to order food and like open my mouth and said what I want, and just seen somebody's face just fall or get angry or Mo says he feels this so much as a black guy. Yes. Danny also says Trinidad is kind of split between Catholicism, Protestants, Hinduism, and Islam. Rusty Venture says, it bugs me as somebody who no longer Christian but has read the Bible so many times that how so many people in America are so okay with it.
Right.
He goes on. Oh, he was asking the majority religion in Trinidad. Yes, and I believe Danny answered that question as well. Thank you guys for helping each other out in the chat when I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm doing all the self introspection stuff about like who I date and who I socialize with, and I do socialize with some Trinidad. I mean, like Kira and Brendan here are two of my favorite people to socialize with. But we are all of us somewhat Americanized in our culturalization. I mean, as much as we try to stay as about the culture in Trinidad as we are always sort of. I mean, I can only speak for myself here. I'm always sort of ostracized as sounding too white. I know Kira probably has the same problem as well. Brendan, I don't know if you do.
Somehow,
Yeah.
even I somehow get the problem. The only place I sound black is in your Discord channel.
It's all comparative, isn't it? It is all very comparative. I know the same thing. Like Brendan, when you are around, I am probably sound the most Trini I've ever sounded in my life, right? Because I
Exactly.
code switch to match you. But when I'm
Yeah.
hanging out with like say Joe or Benji or even Mo, because Mo sounds very white at the best of times as well, I will sound very. I'm doing it right now. But get me in a Street Fighter match with you and Trev and watch the Trini slowly come out of me. Like I will
Oh,
start.
yes.
I will start shouting shit at the top of my lungs, right?
I've observed this in real time.
Yeah. It happens. But it's because it's like a level of comfort that happens. And I'm not saying I'm not comfortable around you guys like Zach and Benji and you guys. I am very comfortable around you guys. But, I mean, we're talking about the culture I grew up in. Like, we're talking
Yeah.
about that. And we're talking about, like, reverting to that when, when I lose... when I don't have to think about being understood, I mean, that's always going to be a part of my life. I can't get away from that, like, ever.
Yeah.
Mo says, gotta use that white voice.
You know what movie I haven't seen yet? Now that
Well, Mo, you
said
already
that,
have a white voice.
Nice to know you. Not
Sorry to bother you.
Sorry to bother you. That's
Wait,
it.
have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my god, Brendan, we have to watch that movie at some point. You will love that goddamn movie.
Yeah,
I literally
yeah.
haven't downloaded on my PC and I just haven't had the time to watch it, but I want to so badly.
See, I sat and watched that with this group, going into it blind myself, and it takes some turns we did not fucking expect. I don't want to spoil it for you, but...
Turns that were never advertised or Like,
It gets
yeah.
super weird, but in the sense that okay, I gotta make this run here. It gets super weird, but it remains talking about the way that we view black bodies and black people who work for inside of capitalist systems that don't value them as people. And you will understand exactly what I mean when the movie gets to its ultimate twist, which I will not spoil for you. But anybody in the chat who has seen that movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the twist is like, wow, I did not see that coming at all.
Of course, my cat comes to bother me when I am facing down an enemy. So let's backstab this guy here, let the cat inside, and then back up while blocking, doing all of this one fucking handed, ladies and gentlemen. This is the content you come to Twitch for. No, you're not gonna parry me, sir. Fucking die. Thank you. Woo!
And the
Good
P&A realm
Thank you.
kind of touches on that type of dehumanization a bit.
Yeah, Mo says, I think Mo says, the movie's take on dehumanization is fucked up, and I agree.
But it all kind of comes back to what what certain bodies and certain races have to do to assimilate.
Right.
In order for some people of color, very often Asians, and I don't mean this in any particular way, but very often Asians, what they have to do to assimilate, is be the model minority, quote unquote, yeah,
Right, yeah.
and or engage in a relationship with another body, that we understand as already having social capital, i.e., white people.
Yes.
For black people to assimilate up, we have to become a whole different body. Even if we marry white people, we will always tell those white people that they assimilated down. Yeah?
Right.
Or the assumption is that we have to be super rich and nobody knows.
Well, so the thing I've always heard and that I've always been told is that to be black in America means that in order to achieve half the success of a white person, you have to be 3 times as qualified. And I think we are absolutely seeing it with the current administration of the United States versus the administration, the leader that just left. Where I think Obama was more eminently qualified to lead America than Donald Trump is, or currently is at least. What am I saying currently is? Will ever be. Yeah. I don't.
The biggest Obama scandal was that he wore a tan suit once.
Boy, I would kill for a tan suit scandal right about now, huh?
Yeah,
Yep,
the worst thing that Obama did was look fresh to death. And now we have a president that is literally putting people to death because of if we just looked at his policies and his inaction around the coronavirus alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, let me be fair in saying that I don't think that Obama was a saint. He has a lot of policies about war that I did not agree with.
I think he's a liberal shithead just like any other liberal shithead.
Sure.
But he was also a symbol of hope for many people of color.
Yes.
For the first time, there was a black person in a position of power somewhere who nobody could say was affirmative action hire.
Right.
Because he had to be voted in.
And honestly, I'll be real with you. As a person of color myself, like I gave Obama a lot of passes on a lot of things because at the end of the day, who knows when we're gonna get this to happen again. So I mean, you had to sort of look the other way, and that is a personal bias on my own. I acknowledge that. That is me looking the other way because hey, this dude wants to do some good, and
I mean, it's also the
know.
design of Babylon, eh? Is the reason why.
Oh, Babylon, Fireborn.
The fundamental difference between conservative and Democrat politics is who says the quiet part out loud.
Wow.
Like they have the same perspective on,
hold
and
on.
it's the same thing here in Trinidad and Tobago.
I gotta sit down and think about that. Like, I know I can't pause the game, but I'm gonna pretend pause, and I'm gonna assimilate that for a second. Say that line again, because I wanna take that in again.
The fundamental difference between Democratic and Republican politics anywhere in the world is who says the quiet part out loud. It's the same thing here in Trinidad and Tobago. Both parties in Trinidad and Tobago are democratic socialist parties.
Yes.
Well, on paper, because I don't think that in practice they're even democratic socialist. When one party wanted to create legislation that allowed us to.
I hate to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem.
But developers behind Mortal Kombat 11 and Street Fighter 5 have pulled their games from EVO Online following allegations of sexual misconduct against the organization's
Mr.
co-founder and CEO. Yep.
Yeah. I was expecting that to happen.
Wait, you this was like an open secret or something?
No,
This
no,
is the
no,
first
no,
time
no.
I'm
I
hearing
say
it from one of.
today is when we found out about the allegations, and I was kind of expecting like some of the bigger sponsors to pull out of Evo at this point because of that.
Oh shit! I didn't even hear any of this. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
And
the
Street
the
Evo
Fighter as
guy.
and
well.
the
You're the guy who gives me Evo news.
I posted about it in fighting game chat. Can't they keep it in their pants, Danny says. I mean, so I remember recently I was on a group in Facebook and somebody linked, how you link group names as a comment, and somebody's group link name comment was, "Why are men?" question mark, and I had to respond with, "As a man, I agree. Why are we?"
yeah.
Could I tell you a very kind of embarrassing and totally stupid story
Go
that
ahead.
also shaped my politics as a person?
Go ahead. That's what we're here for.
When I started going to the University of the West Indies, when I was doing my journalism degree, there was a one time I'm walking through the quadrangle. This was after I had found out that someone that I considered a friend was um not only had he cheated on his significant other who was a friend of mine with a friend of mine and was denying it throughout, um but sometime after that, uh someone came forward to me and said that he assaulted her.
Oh Jesus.
uh yeah. And there was just like tons and tons of stories around me of just like how men were creepy nasty shits, right? And I'm processing all of this just kind of subconsciously. I'm walking through the quadrangle in UE,
Mhm.
and I have a quite literal, I shit you not, panic attack when I come to the understanding that literally almost all of the men that I was close to, some of them even family, yeah, were horrible people that I could not introduce to my girlfriend at the time for
Sure.
fear of her safety. And then I was like, oh shit, I am also a man.
I am also a man. Yes. Now that to say.
And I
Mm.
yeah, I wanted to shed my skin in the quadrangle. I just wanted to cease to be. I was so upset and mortified and terrified. I just didn't have any words for it. And like for like maybe a month when people would say men like Brennan, and I'm like, nope, I'm not a man. You need to come
Mhm.
up with something else.
So I'm gonna read from the chat here. Blaziken says, "Man again."
Man again.
Immortal Joker 66, welcome, sir. By the way, you need to do more of these roundtable discussions. I intend to. Like maybe every Thursday, we should probably do a stream like this. But we'll see how that goes. I want
Be
to
a
see
good
how
time.
everyone. It also depends on a lot of our emotional battery at the time. Like, can we talk about these things? So what I do want to say regarding what you just said, Brendan, is that I think that what we're doing here right now, and let's be honest, it is a group of men in this chat. Everyone in this chat right now, to my knowledge, identifies as male. We are sitting here talking about what we think about things. Now, you may not think that's a big deal on paper, but let's be honest. How often do men actually do an exercise like this where they sit and talk about how they feel about the world around them?
It's true.
It is not often, and when we do it under the guise of getting a drink and old talking, and we don't really get into the topics as deeply as we should. But if we sit down as men with other men who think that way, and we're not even trying to convince them one way or another, or otherwise, to think about women as people or to think about the actions that they protract upon other people. We are just trying to get them to understand that you can talk about what you are feeling. And in a lot of so I had this discussion with somebody else today. I wouldn't even call it a discussion. I kind of said what was on my mind, and they didn't respond. Regarding the sexual misconduct in the video gaming community, not just fighting games. Let's talk about video gaming community in general, because we've seen it happen in dev spaces and in player spaces, speedrunning spaces, fighting game tournaments. Here's the fundamental problem. We are taking a lot of men and a smaller subsection of women, who are the women who are brave enough to ingratiate themselves into those social circles. We are taking those men who are emotionally illiterate, let's be honest, emotionally illiterate and socially awkward, and expecting them to function in a group of people who value that social awkwardness and that emotional illiteracy. That is a cocktail for the kind of disasters that we are seeing being happening right now. You know,
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, and that's the dynamic. That is at least my layman's understanding. I'm not a sociologist. My layman's understanding of how these things happen and how these spaces and why we're seeing so much of it.
Let me add something to that I've been thinking about recently, and someone reminded me of as
Uh huh.
well. Yeah.
Talk to me.
So I don't know if you're familiar with Lou Lyons. He's like one part of the local band Freetown Collective.
Yes, I'm familiar with the band. Maybe not the people by name, but yes, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, so he did a Instagram live that I thought was really interesting
Uh-huh.
about how one of the things that is holding men back from becoming those emotionally literate and even kind of like socially and culturally literate people that they can be is that they don't have that there are no safe and acceptable rites of initiation for men anymore.
Okay. Yes.
And I mean
Yes.
that in two parts,
Mhm.
right? One, all the initiations that we've come to understand from men before are all trash, and we
Yeah.
should have rightfully gotten rid of them. Um, but those things were not replaced with what we might consider acceptable tools for men to come to terms with, or even ever come to like reasonably consider themselves safe to be called men. The
Yeah.
same ways that women do. Like women go through not just having conversations with other women as a rite of passage, but
Mhm.
coming to understand their own biology is a rite of passage that
Right.
has to be engaged with them actively.
Yes.
Um,
So.
whereas
Mm,
whereas with men, like when your voice get deep, somebody's come and tell you, don't make that feel you think that you're a man, you know.
right.
You're still a
And
little boy
that's when you're
everywhere
told
you are.
not to cry and not to be emotional because that's a woman thing, and that's when that
Yeah.
shit begins. But what I want to ask is, every man in this chat, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I want you to think about, if something really awful happened in your life, is there another man that you are not related to that you could go to for emotional support to talk about how you are feeling? And specifically, I do not want you to name a significant other, whether it be of the same gender or an opposite gender, because let's be honest, women have to do a lot of the emotional labor for men a lot of the time. Do any of you
Hmm.
have a male friend who you are not related to that you can go to talk about how you're feeling? Show of hands, just if you want to respond. If you don't want to respond, that's fine. Anybody?
I do.
You do? Okay, good. Anybody else?
I mean, I do as well, but I do think that it's significant that he's a sexual and reproductive health and rights activist and is
Fine.
also gay.
Okay, and that's fine. Um, and you know, you would expect that as men we had a flourishing. TK421 in the chat says he does as well. And Rusty Venture says literally only one, and only
And
because
it's
they
only
confided in
literally
me
one for
first.
me too, with the
Yeah,
exception
yeah.
of you, Toya, and that's because we've only developed, and that's something that we've only developed over the course of the last like 3 years.
Yes, agreed. Now, I think that speaks to a crisis in men's mental health and a crisis in
Yeah,
men's emotional health. And this is why men become predators, because they have no other goddamn outlet. And no, actually, no, let me rephrase that. They do have other outlets, but they're taught to ignore them. They're taught that those are not worthy of their time. They're taught that those are not things that they should be pursuing. And that breaks men.
and
That
that
turns them
also,
into monsters.
that their hostile behavior, their release of aggression in those ways is actually healthy somehow.
It gets
Yeah,
rewarded, doesn't it? Yeah.
people encourage them to do and think and feel those things.
Yeah.
We've been training incels for years.
Yeah,
We just
agreed.
only figured out the language for that shit now. And it's also kind of connected to the whole idea of like how we imagine social unrest and stuff in this country as well. Um like we we are training men as well. And I mean, so I don't want to be overly reductive about this because there are obviously woman police officers who are
Sure.
fundamentally responsible for the same kind of behavior that we decry with more of our black lives here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
But if we were to, but is it not fair to say that predominantly men are responsible for these extrajudicial killings, and they
Uh,
have an internalization around that behavior?
yeah.
Um,
I would like to quote Blaziken as being as saying man again.
Yeah, no, and I mean, again, that's a kind of reduction because
Hmm.
obviously there are women police officers
Of course.
who are trained to engage in the will in a particular way, but it's still to me fundamentally different.
Let's just
Women,
admit that in the conversation we're having right now, we do not have a fine enough brush to paint that nuance. Let's just agree to that.
that's true,
Yeah.
but like for men, it is you part of that thought process, at least as far as I understand it, is
Mhm.
if you join the police force, you have an opportunity to engage with that rage in a way that you allow yourself to think is constructive.
Yeah.
Women enter that system, I assume, um, without that kind of baggage. Yeah,
I
they
want
don't
to
have to. They don't have to engage in the world as a place where they have to consistently be hostile.
I want to bring up Blaziken from the chat. Says I've seen how boy children are treated sometimes. They be shocked. They be shocked as fuck when I'm actually empathetic with them. Like some of them only know how to beat and get beat. Yeah, yeah, and that is a
Yeah,
problem. And I'm speaking mostly from a Caribbean perspective on that one. Like, I mean, the Americans in the chat can say whether or not they feel the same way as well. But yeah, it is a culture of aggression that men are taught, and we're never shown that there's another way. We're always shown that that is demonized, and it's fellas, is it gay to feel feelings? Is this a
yeah. No,
fucking mimic?
I've had that experience actually. I was like, that I was doing workshop work in Washington D.C. for a little while last year.
Yeah.
And the consistent issue with young men that I was working with in the space, otherwise lovely young men, who are like, you could tell that just with a little bit of work, they could become some like stellar um, members of the communities that they live in and will work in.
Yeah.
But you can't tell them anything too sweet,
Yeah.
because their
Rusty
interpretation.
claims he grew up in the 90s, shown any emotion on the playground got you called the F word. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, the
and for
Americans go through it too.
Yep.
Yes.
yeah, and or the alternative is that if you try to treat them with that kind, if you try as a grown person, quote unquote, to try to reach out to young people with that kind of empathy, they assume that you think that they're weak, and then you become their enemy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
So you have
just
to rough
just
them
gonna
up.
do something funny on the stream here. In the spirit of the conversation, firebomb Babylon. Sorry, I just threw a firebomb at a group of enemies, and now I've made them all mad. Anyway, yes, continue, please.
So I mean, I don't know that there's an easy way to fix any of that, because it's also kind of the reason why crime in some areas takes the shape that it does as well. Is
Right.
that we have a bunch of, again, like predominantly like uh, disproportionately men who have lower access to education. In addition to the fact that these communities have low access to education,
Yes.
they have difficulty gaining work, and the ways that they've been trained to engage in their own in external or internal conflict. The
Yeah.
internal conflict of not being able to provide for your families, not being able to
And that's a part of the man
establish
myth
a
as
living
well,
for themselves.
right? Is that you have to be the provider, and that's a big part of our social narrative, right? That's
Yeah.
that's an additional stressor placed onto them, on top of not being able to talk to their emotions with anyone. Like
Fuck gender roles.
yeah, look at how this makes this awful situation that we as men get put in, because we can't talk about it, and because we're not allowed to, because we're not allowed to feel those feelings in any of those spaces.
So I mean, we kind of put men in a position where, at least from an emotional standpoint or from a psychological standpoint, the answer that we've told them they should come up with is violence. So then why would you not expect a lot of young men from these communities to be engaging in crime?
Of course, it's
We
their
want them
only
to do.
recourse. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
what they've been
we want them
taught.
to do. Ask their mother, ask their aunt or their grandmother for a loan. That's
Now,
not how
to
men
clarify,
roll.
we are not saying that these men are not intelligent people. They are. But even the most intelligent of us has fallen. I mean, let's be honest, it's why I play fighting games. It's why I buy into this stupid warrior myth that's been pushed along all the media that I consume. From the time I was a child, I've been watching He-Man and Thundercats and told that I have to look at the fucking game I'm playing right now. Granted, I'm playing as a woman, but like, this is supposed to be my interest level. I'm supposed to be interested in fights and kill and violence. This is the narrative that's been pushed on me. And now I do enjoy it, and as an intelligent man, I can tell you that is through conditioning. I've been conditioned to like this stuff. But I can also be very cognizant of that, and I can say that yes, I am allowed to like this thing, but I'm also allowed to think about, why do I like this thing, and is it a thing that it will benefit me in my emotional life. I have to be smart enough to say, well, not smart. I have to be emotionally flexible enough to say that Else,
Mhm.
I don't have an outlet. Else, I become the thing that we're talking about. I become this emotionally and to be fair, it's not just the guys in the crime-ridden communities. Let's talk about this for a second. It is also the cops. Let's talk about that for a second. It is definitely also the
Quick
cops.
aside,
Mhm.
before we change gears on that, my
Okay.
parents, who are conservative, would absolutely agree with you. My
Really?
father loves romantic comedies. My
Okay.
mother, action films.
There you go. But I'm sure that that is a thing that they have to consider a guilty pleasure on both sides. One
Oh,
second.
they're just pleasures, not even guilty. They're
Okay.
open about it.
To quote Rusty Venture, let me just say he wants to say something here. I dealt with such bad anger problems growing up and still do. I think a lot of it was because rage was the only emotion as a boy that ever got attention or validation. Sadness, depression, and anxiety were ignored for sure. And Danny, back me up on this. As in the Caribbean, sadness and depression goes largely ignored because your parents are just like, oh well, you have a roof over your head. What are you mad about?
Yeah.
That happens.
That's-
I can confirm that as well. I've had to take anger management to try and figure it out on my part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no, and then we also use that as a tool to further emasculate young boys who already have such a difficult time figuring out what their manhood is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, human beings get mad, including young boys. But if you get mad in your mother's house, she'll tell you, "Oh, so you feel you're a big man now? I will show you how much man you is."
But look at all of our media, how it glorifies that anger. Like, let's look at video games real quick, right? In Street Fighter, Ryu becomes evil Ryu. He becomes violent. He becomes aggressive. Akuma becomes violent and aggressive, and they're rewarded for it. That is the seat of their power. Let's talk about fucking Dragon Ball. Like a dude yells so hard that his hair turns gold. I'm talking about shit that I like, right? Like I'm trying to find the patterns in the things I like. And I grew up with a lot of anger issues myself. My dad had a terrible temper, and I inherited that from him. Generational trauma is a real thing. I inherited that from my dad, and for years, to this day, I am still dealing with those feelings of anger, and I am dealing with not wanting to lash out at people. And I'm dealing with the fact that that is how I've been taught that I get attention, and how I deal with things is... you got... Whoa, fuck. No! Sorry, distracted. Anyway, somebody else take up the conversation for you. I need to do a thing here. God damn it. No, don't die. Alright, okay, cool. We're good.
You okay? Yeah.
Little sidetrack. I mean, that is the danger of trying to discuss very important issues while also playing a video game. Danny's...
That's why I've resorted to
taking breaks,
taking
yeah.
card games right now.
Well, this is why I have you guys on with me, and thank you guys so much again. Let me pause in the middle of this to say thank you all so much for wanting to have this conversation with me. But let's be honest, on our daily hangouts, and we all hang out on Discord daily, we don't talk about these things. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, or that we should only reserve it for now. We can talk about it whenever you guys want, but thank you guys so much for having this conversation with me in a public forum and allowing other people to partake in the conversation as well. I'm sure that everybody watching right now is very thankful as well that we are all able to have this conversation.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I certainly hope so. I mean, I think these kind of conversations are stressful too. I think it's the reason why people, because like it was even an assumption that I made once that I should not be talking about this kind of stuff on stream.
Yeah.
Because it could be a bad look and people not really into that shit.
So, I mean, there's a lot of streamers who specifically stay away from political topics and social topics in general. The one streamer I think I really appreciate who talks about these things is Markiplier. We're talking about big name streamers. Markiplier has talked about depression, and he's been open about the tragedies of his family and everything for a long time. And I really appreciate him doing that. That is a thing that I think more streamers need to do. However, a lot of streamers and a lot of men in general in their daily lives fall into the routine of, oh, I'm worried about a thing, but I'll go have a drink and forget all about it, and that'll be fine. Oh, no, I'm going the wrong way. No. Okay, good. How the fuck did you get in here? Sorry. And so what happens is that they end up trivializing things that should be important to them. Emotions are an important thing. And if we don't learn how to deal with these things... No, I don't want to go back up the thing. Right, okay. If we don't learn how to deal with those things, we end up doing the kind of things that these guys who are getting called out do. Do you think that any of those men who are called out for sexual situations, for being awkward, or for assaulting women, do you think that they would have an easier time dealing with the presence of other people and who other people are if they could just talk about it with other men and even women? Could they just talk once in their lives about what they are feeling, and maybe these situations would not happen. I mean, that is one part of a larger issue, I grant you, but I'm just saying that I feel like it would go a long way towards stopping these kinds of situations from happening.
We need to radically transform how we think about men and communities
Yes.
entirely in order for that work to happen, though, which is a shame, but
No, and I think
I
that
mean,
work
it also
starts
needs
now.
to be done.
I think if any year it begins, it is. I'm sorry, I'm skipping through story stuff here because I assume everybody watching has either played or knows about Dark Souls 3, and we're more about the conversation here. So what I'm saying is, the year that we are living in right now, we see a post-zero macho man leading the free world. I use the free world term loosely because the U.S. government is still seen as the leader of the free world. So that being said, we have this post-zero macho man who comes in. He wasn't an actor yet. Comes in with these promises of I'll make America great again and swing my fists around and get things done, and you know, this was the machismo talking. A machismo that we as men in the 21st century, I would like to think at this point, have at least begun to suspect is kind of bullshit, okay? And I think that being shown the ineffectiveness of that methodology of thinking, I would like to think that that's where we begin to make this change. I'd like to think that men around the world are looking at the leadership that people like, and let's not just lay it at Donald Trump's feet. I'm talking about leaders like Jair Bolsonaro. I don't like to bring his name up, but there he is. Boris Johnson. Yes, I just died. My first death of the game, everyone. Boris Johnson, Jair Bolsonaro, this cult of machismo that has turned us into these unfeeling, unthinking things that are all about some weird ideal of success that we have to aspire to. You get what I'm saying? Like, 2020 is the year that we realize that doesn't work. As are we are realizing that a lot of systems just aren't working. Not just that, you know, our judicial system, our policing systems don't work. And it is not far off to say that the systems of manhood that we've grown up with don't really work either, and they're not working in our favor.
But I mean, that's a harder conversation because people have to decide also what manhood is, and we don't have an
There's no
answer.
manual, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, arguably there's no like clear definition of what it is to be a woman too, but it's the same thing about I mean, to use a simpler term, initiation. Like, women at least have to engage in what it means for them individually, at least, and sometimes communally, to be a woman.
Yes.
But even in communities where men are trying to do the work, very often they have absolutely no idea what they mean when they say,
To be
I
a
am a man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
I don't have no clue.
I want to call out some stuff in the chat here. Mo says, I'll chalk up the majority of my coming out not as fucked up as I could have been because I was primarily raised by my mom and older brothers. Okay, so you had a wonderful little social network there that you could express yourself to. Blaziken says, why did you sound like Doug Dimmadome? Sorry. I don't know. I will watch this video back and see where I turned it to Doug Dimmadome, but okay, I'll take your word for it.
Doug Dimmadome is when you turn into Trump.
Oh, okay.
Trump has a lot of Doug Dimmadome.
My Trump is Dimmadome. Okay, gotcha. Uh-huh.
I like to quote Kung Fu Panda. There is no secret ingredient.
Ah,
That's a good scene, by the way. We should urge everyone to look up that scene on YouTube. But yeah, so where's I going with this conversation now? Yeah, that we're seeing a lot of systems not work in 2020, and I hope that this is the year that we start to. And everybody's been saying 2020 is the apocalypse, and this is the end of life as we know it, and all this shit. Yes and no. Yes, we are starting to see a lot of things not work, but also I'd like to think that it also means that we're trying to point out, you know, where we can make things better, and I think we're moving towards that. Between the pandemic, between riots happening, between ineffectual government, I'd like to think that we're turning things around. Also, Mo, that is a similar situation for my brother. His coming out was a lot easier having lived with mom and me and my sister. There you go. A good social structure and a good structure of people who listen to you is important. Also, I took the brunt of the gay panic 5 years prior. Wow. Oh, I don't think Mo meant coming out. I think Mo meant like coming out as a human being. I'm paraphrasing, but I think that might have been where Mo was going with that. But your conversation is also very valid as well. Hi, Fort. It's been a long time. I haven't seen you.
I've been
Sorry,
seeing
boss
that
fight. So
today.
I'm gonna be caught up for a little bit here. So if anybody else wants to handle the conversation, feel free.
I'm much more interested. I mean, I know that very few people could have like that conversation about more Black Lives Matter, besides perhaps you and Blaziken.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I would really like to see a refreshing take about this, because like literally the only things that I've been seeing on social media are why none of them middle class folk went and protest like
Yeah.
they did the last time. That's one, and two, kill out all them bandit and them.
Yeah.
I've been seeing posts sharing about people just saying like just a bomb Mova and just let everybody die. And I'm
Wait, like we've seen that happen in the States historically, and we've seen that shit happen. And we know the kind of scars that leaves intergenerationally on communities as well. Like, you can't just up and say, because that's taking the problem that we're complaining about and dialing it up to 11.
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Hey, Mo.
Hey guys. Yeah, Joe said he would have loved to have been here otherwise, but he's both dealing with some stuff on his end and
Right.
also with the way the conversation's going, he feels like he wouldn't be able to.
I
undoubtedly,
respect
like,
that.
Yeah. So he's just been like sitting down, listening, and also just talking to his significant other about some stuff about how his day went. Which,
Listen, Joe, if you're still listening, we love you, buddy, and I understand that you feel like you would not be able to contribute to the conversation. I feel like you would be valid enough to, but it is your choice whether to engage with it or not, and I'm glad that you're thinking about it at least. Thank you so much. Anyway, yes, continue, Mo.
But yeah, we were talking earlier about how he had like a good first day at work, so that's nice.
That's good. I'm glad he did. I've been very worried about him for quite some time, and I'm glad his first day at work turned out so well.
Yeah, so am I.
Blaziken in the chat says, we love you, Joe. What kills me about it is when people kill people, we expect the police to deal with it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, all that shit.
somebody
like-
made a post. Sorry, go ahead, Mo.
It's like I always wondered growing up, like, for the longest time I always talked this up, due to the fact that my mom was an immigrant in a predominantly white country. It's like she was like, you gotta be careful about these cops. They'll do anything. They'll just stick you with anything or throw you in jail or maybe even kill you. And it's like, for the longest time I thought she was just being overprotective because obviously I'm her son and she cared about me and her other kids. But growing up and now seeing all this stuff, I just sort of want to go back. I've actually gone back and apologized to her about being such a naive dipshit.
Okay, I want to quickly, as you said that, I want to ask a question to our white American and otherwise viewers in the chat and the guys who are here. Have you guys ever had that conversation with your parents about the fact that police might just kill you for no reason?
No, never.
Never.
I've conversation here in Trinidad.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we've only had it once, but that's because I'm autistic.
Fine. That is honestly, that's still a reason to have it, because we're talking about people who are perceived as other, right? And being black or being autistic does certainly mark you as being different from other people, and you know, you have to worry about that. You have to worry about how much does my othering go. Like, in the heat of the moment, when a cop, you know, is walking around me, can I convince him that I am not a threat? Can I logistically, in the span of a few seconds, convince this cop that I am, I don't want to say is equal, but like that I am worthy of being treated like a human being? Jesus Christ, there's no way I can say this that makes it sound okay, is there?
No, and
No.
I know what you're trying to ask, and the answer is no.
Yeah.
The only thing you can do is mitigate the amount of perceived threat
Yes.
that you can project.
Yeah.
Yes, officer, I am reaching for my wallet. Like, that's what we're talking about. So
Yeah.
when I watch movies growing up as a kid in the 80s, and white kids would like break into people's houses and they're just being like, I would sit there and go, yeah, that's fucking movie logic. But apparently
Yeah.
that is the white privilege we're talking about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Welcome home.
Letting
It's like-
boys be boys is
Very
a hand wave
touched
for
by
I'm
you.
not going to take responsibility for this.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Yeah.
And when you pass that buck, you better be fucking happy with where it stops, because it
Yep.
might not stop in a place that you will approve of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is wild that, like, Mo, you said that you had that conversation. I know I've had that conversation with my parents when going to the States. I was told the cops in America, the immigration officers will not treat you like a human being, and you need to be prepared for that. Like,
That is absolutely true.
yeah. Yeah, and these are things that it's taken us almost a generation to really sit down and talk about in forums like this, you know. And I can only hope that this is happening around the world right now, that people are sitting and talking about, hey, I just want to be treated like a human being.
Absolutely.
Okay,
That's a
so
fucking-
I have a story about that. Let me give you a story about that. So I want to say now, you all who know me personally know my wife, my ex-wife at this point.
Yeah.
When we first got married, I don't want to use her name because I don't want to put her in any kind of jeopardy. But when we first got married, she had to go back to Florida to have her name changed on a bunch of her documents. And she had her last name changed to my last name, which is a very Muslim last name, let's be honest. On her way back, she was detained by immigration in the US. And they stopped her and asked her a bunch of questions about where she was going, what her goals were. They even purposely asked her if she spent any time in Haiti, which they knew to not be true, but they wanted to see if she'd slip up. She was immediately, as soon as her name changed to an Arabic name, was immediately treated differently. Even though she was born and raised in the USA, a white person, as soon as her name changed to an Arabic name, she was treated that way. And that should tell you something.
I feel that so fucking much. Because there are days where it feels like, oh hey, if I'm not being like harassed or discriminated upon because of the color of my skin, there are like I will be harassed and discriminated upon because of my faith and my name. And it's fucking
yeah.
In America, if you do not fit a certain clique or a certain category, a certain label, you're seen as a deviant.
Yeah.
Yep.
And nothing
it
more
doesn't
has
matter what you are. If you're white, black, Asian, Christian, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, atheist, it doesn't fucking matter. If you do not fit a specific label to the letter, you are a deviant and are therefore second class.
And there's always something, isn't there? And it's always something, because if you're white, maybe you're white and gay, well, there's your first strike. Maybe you're white, gay, and autistic, well, there's a strike. Maybe you're white, gay, autistic, and transgender, oh my god, you know, trifecta. There's all these things that mark you as not being part of this limited, and we'd like to think that after the politically correct 90s, or so they're called, that we moved past that. We have not. If anything, it's gotten worse, because now that people who are on the outside have a voice because of things like the internet, now it's become worse because now the pronouncement of differences has become so noticeable. And this is why you have, I feel, again, I speak only as a layperson, I'm not a sociologist, this is why we're seeing a rise in white nationalism, it's why we're seeing a rise in Nazism, because that's where that ideal falls into place more readily and is more readily acceptable. And we're seeing young white men get radicalized towards that because that's where they feel comfortable. That's where the people who look and act like them live. And that's where they go to find that solace. And that's a horrible thing. And the thing is, it's no different than young brown men getting radicalized into ISIS. Like, it's the same type of disempowerment story that they're being spun.
Yep.
God, that's a weird parallel to draw. Holy shit.
But I mean, that's to show you how Babylon does work. No, there's a script for this shit, and this script has been there for ages, longer than any of us have, longer than all of us collectively have lived on this earth. Babylon script has been written.
So Rusty Venture says the white nationalists have been mobilizing in the U.S. since the early 90s. The media has largely ignored it. I believe that. I would believe that, because you don't get this powerful overnight. He says they've killed so many people in the 90s. Yeah, and they continue to do so today. I mean, okay, so let's get real for a second. Why is nobody talking about the rash of black people being hanged that happened a couple of weeks ago? Why is nobody fucking talking about this?
Yeah,
It's being constantly dismissed as suicides, which is
which is completely untrue.
Okay, so from my limited knowledge of psychology, which I have studied, people when they commit suicide generally do so in the comfort of their home and don't make a public spectacle of it, especially when it's a hanging, because they like to think about what's going to happen to their bodies afterwards. They want it to be in a private place, unless it is to be known to the public, in which case they don't usually hang themselves, they usually jump off of buildings. So this doesn't fit the MO of a suicide at all, in the least. Any junior medical examiner will tell you that.
And also, the thing about suicide that no one really talks about the survivors from the surviving family members of the person who does commit suicide is that the person who does it normally doesn't fucking tell anyone.
Yep, that's true. You know, next time we do a stream like this, I will have to put some trigger warnings in place that we are going to talk about some very uncomfortable topics.
Yeah, that's why there's one in mine.
Yeah.
I will start doing that from the next one. I apologize if anybody doesn't want to have these conversations right now, but I'll be honest with you guys, I did need a little bit of a forum where I could come and vent this a little bit, and this has been a great one. And the fact that it's being shown publicly means that I have to choose my words very carefully, and that means that I have to pace my thoughts and trade my ideas back and forth with you guys. And I encourage you guys to disagree with me at any point. I don't want this to be an echo chamber of me talking back to myself. If you guys think I'm saying bullshit, please tell me so. Like, I do not mind in the least. A conversation is a conversation. If it gets a little heated, that's on us. We have to be adults, and we have to express our emotions in ways that can be understood by all of us.
Unless they've already left yet.
Unless what's already left you.
Unless the people who do disagree with you have already left. Which
Oh,
is
well,
not uncommon.
Yeah.
That's a failing of being able to communicate, I would think. And, you know, if they need to step away, they need to step away. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, hell, the part of the reason why I didn't decide to come into the voice channel until now was mainly because, like Joe, it's like I felt like I couldn't really have much. I felt like I couldn't have much to contribute. But
No, I think, yeah,
not fucking true.
you have been contributing quite a lot. Your experiences make up a lot of what we've been talking about. Joe feeling like he can't contribute. I feel like Joe could contribute, but he's emotionally like a little drained right now. I understand, and he knows how we feel about him. He knows we care about him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I that's not a problem. I would love to have him in one of these conversations as another time, because Joe as well has some experiences with race that I don't want to talk about right now publicly because it's his story, not mine to tell. But he has some very interesting nuance about his race and race identity that is intriguing. I will tell you guys about that when he's around and he wants to talk about it, I think. But he's talked about it with us at some length for some time. Oh, Rusty has a long comment here. Trigger warning for suicide. Men especially would not do that unless it is out of turn. I apologize, but I refuse to believe that a black man in America who chooses to kill themselves would do so by public... Yes, thank you! It is certainly possible, but from what friends have told me, I don't think anyone would be unaware of the optics. Thank you! He talks about his cousin hanging himself, and he did it in a fairly hidden... Yes, as far as I know, most people who hang themselves do it in the privacy of their own home or where they'll be found by a family member. And
no, if
yes,
they're usually found in public, it's usually a lynching, and that's what a lot of people outside of the law enforcement circles believe, that this was a lynching, because it
it looks like one.
The requisites.
Yeah,
but then you have to have that whole...
Not just the public location, but the locale of said
but then
location.
you have to have that whole convo about how black people are being treated in general. And that, I think, is the reason why plenty of people are eager to not have that. Even people, and now this goes sound real terrifying, I think even people who otherwise consider themselves allies of the Black Lives Matter movement, just like middle class folks who are like, yes, black people shouldn't die like this, but those folks, even those folks want this conversation to not happen, because then they would have to admit that we don't live in a post-racial world.
I disagree with that.
Oh?
You disagree with
we're
what?
talking about it.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, no, we are talking about it, but...
And those same protesters, they will talk about it. Ask them about
it,
they'll talk with you about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mean like folks who are actively like on the front lines of these issues. I mean like those folks who would like to think themselves allies, but are quick to say, well, rioting is still bad and we should condemn those folks. And like, no, fuck that. Fuck that.
You mean like theoretical Timmy from Fresno, you know, a straw. It's a straw man argument, but we're illustrating again. We do not have the fine brush to paint the nuance of this conversation. But speaking in general terms, yes, there are a majority of people who do not want to have that conversation. Or you know what? To go back to my point. To go back to my point, there may not be anybody they are comfortable having that conversation with. They may not have mature friends who are willing to sit down and talk, because like I've seen a lot of Discord chats with a lot of younger people that I have seen like around like in gamer circles. You bring up a topic like this and it's one of two reactions. It's either we don't want to talk about this, let's change the topic to something gaming related, or it's let's talk loudly about it. I have strong ideals that I'm just going to yell about and not listen to the other person on. I've seen that happen so many times.
in the defense of a lot of folks, right? It is kind of for the folks who like genuinely don't feel comfortable having those kinds of conversations. Like I'll be the first to say that it must be terrifying
Mhm.
to attempt to say with one's own lips that they live in a world that would still kill people on the basis of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
You have to admit that that is the place that you live and call home and used to do so proudly. That no matter where your politics is, that's a terrifying thing to say. Like I don't know
Yeah.
if I would ever have the
Again,
I would
I'm a white guy in a middle class home. I find this terrifying that this shit still is going on, even though I've been taught all my life that what is happening now is wrong,
Yeah.
and still is wrong. I still find it wrong.
I got numerous friends who would like to come to the United States for various reasons, be it most commonly is like furry conventions or even fighting game events. And there's only one person that I'm still in contact with who I could say, you're good to come over here.
Right.
He's from the Netherlands and he's white. And
Yeah.
he's already buddies with Ultra Arcade.
yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Kara and I wanted a couple of years ago to invite a couple poets that we met from the individual World Poetry Slam that we went to in 2018 to come down here for the National Poetry Slam. And then when we were thinking about the people that we wanted to invite and why we think that they would have a good time, we had to go back to that list and be like, but some of those people will not be safe. Some of those people are trans and non-binary. Some of those people are just not going to have a decent time, no matter the fact that we're sending them to a community that is inclusive. They would still have to negotiate space. They still have to get a maxi and a taxi here in Trinidad, where people are still sometimes closed-minded and hateful people. Yeah, and that's a terrifying thing when you are also someone who like wants to kind of be an ambassador for the place that you call home, oftentimes proudly. Yeah, like I want to be able to say that Trinidad and Tobago has, or well, depending on who you ask, will used to have one of the richest spoken word scenes in the Caribbean, if not, depending on who you ask, the world.
Yeah.
But I would also have to invite them to stay here for some of the lazy cars, and then tell them, well, you can't take a car by yourself. You can't take a car too late unless you tell us what the license plate is. And if you ever end up in front of the beat and your car stalls, you need to be concerned about X and Y. All of those things are terrifying things to say. Yeah.
And now that might sound a little classist of us to say that as well, but like being realistic, like those are the high crime areas. We have to at least, say that that is an issue that they need to be concerned about.
But I will also be the first to say, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. There's a really funny story of a friend of mine named Joshua.
Yeah.
We were doing a TEDx.
Also,
doing
real
a TEDx
quick,
event.
Rusty and Blaziken, I'm seeing your conversation, but we're having this. We're trying to parse through our conversation. I will read your comments as soon as I get a chance. Yes, go ahead, Ren. Sorry.
Yeah. So my friend Joshua, both of us are working on a TEDx event at the university, right? Some folks are supposed to drop some carnival costumes, but they were running a little bit late, and Joshua decides, well, he'll go up and meet them because he has some other stuff to do, and he'll come back the road with them, right? All was well and good until I realized that they're running like a half an hour late. Now the event ain't started yet, but I'm kind of concerned because we should have finished setup by now. So I message him. He say, the truck that we're on stalled in the beat up. Yeah. And we're like, no, this was much younger, much dumber, much more sheltered middle class me. It's like, bro, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, the car just stalled. We called somebody already. Lo and behold, now he messaged us back to say, and I think that he was deliberately bullshitting us, right? Like he was deliberately playing on our fears. He messaged us back and say, 4 fellas from the beat just come out here for me. And I was like, what do you mean? Are you safe? And he's like, oh no, they just helping us load the costumes onto our next truck so we could go up the road.
He was definitely fucking with you.
Yeah. Now the
Yeah.
thief his phone,
Mm.
but they helped him leave. They helped him leave, and they didn't do him
Brandon,
anything.
this
They
is a
didn't
hell
harass
of
him.
a
They didn't do
story,
anything.
okay?
It is, yeah.
It's a hell of a story. I don't know. I don't know how to feel at this point.
I didn't know how to feel then either, but like
Uh-huh.
we're also talking about a community of people. I mean, think about what people usually tell you when you get stuck in the beat up.
Right.
Wind up your windows, lock your car. Don't call car care service. Call the police.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that too. So let me be clear about something. I do not believe that there is ever such a thing as an evil person. You know, even at their most evil, even at the most authoritarian evil, it is still people looking out for their own best interests. And the people in the Beetham are not evil. They are simply disadvantaged and taught that a certain way of life will advance them, and they're not wrong. They are by all accounts, by their own experiences, right that that way of life and those actions will let them survive. They're not wrong. But we as a society have allowed them to be in that place, and we as a society now have to look at what's going on and decide what we want to do about it. Do we want to normalize saying, quote unquote, kill them all and let the police sort it out and kill them all? Like, no, that's not. These are human beings we're talking about at the end of the day. As unempathetic as you are going to be, random internet person who I'm creating a straw man out of, you must accede that this is a human life we're talking about. And I say this as somebody who believes in the death penalty, but I believe in a death penalty after a certain amount of due process has occurred, and we get. Now, I know, Brendan, you and I disagree on this, but
Right.
at the end of the day, what we can agree on is that no human being's life should be taken at all under the circumstances out in the street without a court of law present. Can we agree on that?
We can certainly agree on that.
This
I
is
mean,
all I'm asking for.
I don't think. I mean, I'm even more extreme than the average person. So, like, people say that police officers should be able to, should be given the right to take the life of a criminal in self-defense. I think even that needs to have such stringent measures put behind it. Like, my personal ideal world in terms of how police deal with crime in any community is that they have to write a report for every individual bullet that leaves a chamber under
Right.
their watch.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because the standard by which individuals who not only have a service to protect everyday citizens, but can do so with lethal weapons, that has to be so thoughtfully, so meticulously carried out that it should be virtually impossible for someone to think of drawing their gun first.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, in a
There's
perfect world, that is the case, right?
Yeah,
You
in a
don't
perfect
understand
world,
how
that is
what
the
little
case.
training they get, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I can't speak for the Trinidadian service, but I've heard in the States it is what, 6 months of training?
Not even close.
Really?
I think it's different from state to state, but like it's
It
terrible.
varies from state to state. It can be as much as 2 months of training, 90% of it with firearms, to as little as you're hired, blank slate, no
Wow.
resume.
Yeah,
Ah.
and you get training on the job. And I mean, for Trinidad and Tobago, I think, and somebody will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've gathered of the process, very often you have already, like the last thing that separates you from actually becoming a police officer is not training. It's whether or not anyone makes a complaint about you within the 2-week window before you get hired.
Wow.
Like you send in an application, they say you're under review, and then they'll put a full page ad in the papers with all of the recruits and give people an opportunity to say, well, hey, this band ever harassed you before? Is this person someone that we should not hire? And if
Yeah.
nobody says no within 2 weeks, they'll just hire you and in some cases give you a gun. And that's that.
You know, the lax nature of the police force in that regard always reminds me of, I can't remember who the comedian was, so I can't really properly attribute this, but I remember a comedian talking about the police in South Africa. And she was saying this as I believe she was either from South Africa or who had spent a lot of time there. And she said that there's a joke in South Africa that when the police show up to solve, let's say, a murder, there'll be a body in the street. And the police procedure is like this: the police will show up and look at the people around and go, "Did you see who do it? No? Did you see who do it? No? We will never find him." And and I feel like that applies to a lot of the policing in Trinidad as well. Like that's the impression. I mean, if it were not for, God forbid I'm saying this, people
Say
like
you're not let. Don't say his name.
Brendan, why you do this to my boy?
You can't do it. Nope, I will not allow it. Don't say his name.
Don't fucking do it.
Don't encourage the man.
I'm with Brendan. Don't do it.
Book his
I've-
name.
Encourage the man.
I've shown these guys this guy. Like I've shown you guys what he's like and what his behavior is like. But if it were,
Piping hot mess.
yeah, he interferes with police investigations all the time and he makes them incredibly worse. But he gives the impression, much like Gary Griffith, our current commissioner of police, he gives the impression that work is being done. And at the end of the day, I feel like to the Trinidadian populace, that matters more than if work is actually being done. That the narrative of work being done is more important than if a criminal is ever actually caught.
They favor the
I
illusion
mean,
over the reality.
The thing about the world that many people live in is hope is more important than truth.
I mean, I saw The Dark Knight Rises. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, because only one of those things for some people are possible.
Yeah.
And if you have to choose which one you'll risk your life for, it can't be the truth. Because you might never get that.
So, yeah. I'm actually going to probably end the gaming session here tonight, and with that, I will also probably end the conversation. I know that we haven't come to any real conclusions on this, but it was just a venting session for everyone involved. But I do want to thank everyone who's in the chat right now: Rusty Venture, Blaziken, I know TK421 was there, Rich Job, everyone who showed out tonight. This was more than I've ever gotten in a stream before, and this was way more positive engagement than I've ever gotten in a stream before. And everyone,
Yeah, it was great.
let me thank everyone who's here in the chat with me. Benji, you were here first. Mo, you're always around here. Brendan, I would like to thank you for all of your contributions. Zach, I would love to thank you for your fact-checking contributions tonight. Everyone here, if you have a Twitch... Otter, you're there too. Yes, thank you for showing up as well, and thank you for enjoying it. I would like for any of us here who have a Twitch channel who would like to follow or to promote something. Brendan, I know you have a Twitch channel. Do you want to tell people how to find you?
I am literally everywhere at Brendan Alexi. I Twitch here at twitch.tv at /Brendan Alexi. I'll be probably doing a Friday afternoon free write tomorrow.
Nice.
To commemorate NaNoWriMo.
Okay. Might show up for that, yeah.
And I will probably end up talking a lot of the same talk that we have here too. So if you still feel like there's stuff that you want to share, please feel free.
I might just do that. I might. Does anybody else have a Twitch channel or anything that they'd like to promote?
I hardly Twitch stream anymore.
That's fine. That's fair. Anything anybody else wants to promote? No?
I actually do have one thing I want to promote.
Yes.
And it's primarily a thing that I got back into like around the same time I quit my job last year.
Mhm.
It's the Medium page that I usually just post just to remind myself, hey, writing can be fun, but also I need to remind myself why I like video games to begin with. I did this in the last couple months. I haven't done so between getting a new job and just the entire landscape of the world being kind of on fucking fire.
Yes.
I haven't had a chance to write much, but if you go to medium.com / at Mahmoud Adan, that's MOHAMOUD.ADAN, you can find my series called What's Good About, in which I talk on various video games that I've played. Usually they're short ranging between like 5-10 minutes. It's not that much at all. It's pretty interesting for some stuff, and I still say that my magnum opus is both my piece on Katana Zero and me just gushing about Doom 2016.
I've read both those pieces. They're fantastic. I would also like to put in one more plug for Blaziken95 has a webcomic called Spiritbound that is about Trinidadian mythology and is a fantastic piece of writing and lovely artwork. I encourage you to check out Blaziken95. Yeah, I have physical copies of it somewhere on that bookshelf. I will dig them out for my next stream. But thank you everyone. I'm probably gonna end the stream now, and we'll. If you guys like this, we'll probably do it every Thursday, every other Thursday, whenever we feel like doing it. But stream, goodbye.
Goodbye.